So here's the issue for faithful church members who might say, why does it matter? Why not just have the peepstone in the hat and say, oh, maybe it was done that way some of the times? Well, it's simply this. Joseph Smith and Oliver Cowdery were more than just witnesses to the Book of Mormon and how the Book of Mormon was translated. They are the only two mortal witnesses to the restoration of the Aaronic priesthood. They're the only two mortal witnesses to the restoration of the Melchizedek priesthood. They're the only two mortal witnesses to the restoration of the temple keys in the Kirtland Temple. So if you're going to say that Joseph Smith and Oliver Cowdery are not credible, where are we? Where is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints if you don't have Aaronic priesthood, if you don't have Melchizedek priesthood, if you don't have temple keys? Where are we? And that all rests on the credibility and testimony of Joseph Smith Jr. and Oliver Cowdery, who were designated in Doctrine and Covenants section 20 as the first and second elders of the church. They were the first presiding authorities of the church in this dispensation and held those positions all through the Kirtland period. When Oliver returned to the church in 1848 and he spoke to the saints, he made a specific point of saying that the Book of Mormon was translated with the interpreters that came with the plates, and he made a specific point to say the priesthood was restored. I was there. I witnessed the restoration of the priesthood. They were all foundational events that he personally witnessed and that he testified to. I've certainly heard many people who I respect say, oh, it really doesn't make any difference. But if you look at the importance of Joseph Smith and Oliver Cowdery to the beginnings of the restoration, I think it is an important issue. I can't just smoosh it over and say, maybe Joseph and Oliver were, maybe they forgot that they used the Seerstone. Maybe they were just trying to cover it up a little bit, because people raise questions about, like the restoration of the Melchizedek priesthood. We don't quite know when exactly that occurred. And this was one of David Whitmer's arguments. David Whitmer claimed later in 1888, he said, I never heard anything about these priesthood restorations. That was another one of his arguments about Joseph being a fallen prophet. And it's something that anti-Mormon historians will bring right up front, and they'll say, oh, Joseph just made all this stuff up about having the priesthood restored. These are arguments that are out there that are made by credible historians. But here's the point. Oliver is critical here, because if it was just Joseph and there really was no other witness, then you could say he was a crazy kid or he was really creative or whatever. But the fact that you had this intelligent, self-respecting, sincere second witness, Oliver Cowdery, who broke with Joseph when he got upset with things that Joseph had done, but then came back, who affirmed and affirmed and reaffirmed all of these things, is the law of witnesses. And Oliver is the witness. So to say that he and Joseph were just making up even a part of the story, it undermines the entire foundation. There are faithful historians who are advocates of the stone in the hat theory who will say, quite frankly, they think that Joseph and Oliver were being misleading. And once we start down that track, why believe anything that the two guys told us?
Yeah. When we talk about number of actual individuals involved with the translation process, it is an extremely small number of people.
Yes.
It's not like witnesses to a football game where there's hundreds of people watching it and everybody saw it from a different angle. It's this tiny group of people were involved. And as we talk about the actual scribes and what they actually said, then you end up with a very narrow explanation as to what happened.
Mm-hmm. And I should add that John Whitmer, who's one of the 8 witnesses, David's brother, he was a scribe for a short period of time. And his account is Urim and Thummim. So
yeah, you noted that in your book. I appreciated that. I had not known about that account.
Yeah. So even John didn't agree with his own brother on that one.
Yeah.
So, but you're right. Even if you stretch it, and say, well, people who were on the scene maybe count for something. Like, Lucy Smith, for example, who I think is pretty credible. You're still a handful of people at most.